Have you been waking up more tired than you used to, noticing puffiness in your face, or feeling drained no matter how much sleep you get, and quietly telling yourself this must just be age? What if I told you that for millions of Americans, especially after 50, these aren't normal signs of aging at all, but early warnings that the kidneys are under silent stress right now? I'm Dr. Mark Ellis, and here's the urgent truth most people never hear until it's too late. Creatinine doesn't spike overnight. It creeps up slowly, quietly, while you're still going to work, eating what you think is healthy, and assuming everything is fine. And by the time obvious symptoms show up, the kidneys may already be struggling far more than you realize. That's the danger, because kidney stress doesn't scream for attention. It whispers. It shows up as low energy brain fog, swelling, or lab numbers that are just slightly high, until one day those numbers cross a line you can't easily walk back from. But here's where this conversation changes direction, because despite what many people believe, protecting your kidneys does not mean starving yourself, cutting all protein, or accepting decline as inevitable. In fact, the real problem isn't protein itself. It's the wrong kind, eaten in the wrong way, at the wrong time. And once you understand that distinction, everything starts to shift. Today, I'm going to walk you through a science-backed approach that uses specific kidney-friendly proteins to lighten the filtration load, support detox, and help stabilize creatinine naturally, along with one overlooked strategy near the end that surprises almost everyone and often determines how fast real improvement begins. So stay with me, because if you or someone you love wants stronger kidneys, better energy, and a future that doesn't revolve around worsening lab results, what you're about to hear could make all the difference. When we talk about protecting stressed kidneys, the first mistake most people make is believing they need to cut protein altogether. That fear is understandable, but it's also dangerous, because when protein intake drops too low, especially after 50, the body doesn't simply adapt. It starts breaking down its own muscle to survive, and that process creates even more toxic waste for the kidneys to filter. This is where egg whites change the entire conversation. I've seen this pattern repeatedly in my patients. A few years ago, a 67-year-old man came into my clinic, exhausted, swollen around the eyes, and frustrated. He had done what he thought was right, cutting back on meat, skipping protein, eating light. Yet his creatinine kept creeping up. When we looked closer, the problem wasn't that he was eating protein. It was that he had removed the only kind of protein his kidneys could actually tolerate. Once we reintroduced egg whites consistently, something remarkable happened. His energy stabilized, his muscle loss slowed, and over the following months, his lab numbers stopped climbing. Here's the science behind why this works. Egg whites are almost pure high-quality protein with virtually no fat, no cholesterol, and most importantly for kidney health, almost no phosphorus. One large egg white contains about 3 grams of complete protein, but only 5 to 7 milligrams of phosphorus. Compare that to whole eggs, cheese, red meat, or protein powders, which can contain 100 milligrams or more per serving. For kidneys already under strain, that difference isn't small, it's massive. Phosphorus is one of the most overlooked drivers of kidney damage, accelerating inflammation, weakening bones, and increasing cardiovascular risk when it accumulates. For older adults, this matters even more. As we age, we naturally lose muscle, a condition known as sarcopenia. When muscle breaks down, creatinine often rises, not because the kidneys suddenly failed, but because the body is literally consuming itself. Egg whites interrupt that destructive cycle. They deliver amino acids in a clean, low-waste form that helps preserve muscle, stabilize energy, support immunity, and reduce the internal pressure placed on the kidneys day after day. And the beauty of egg whites is how easy they are to use. They don't taste heavy. They don't burden digestion. They can be folded into oatmeal, added to vegetables, mixed into soups, or prepared as a soft omelet using pasteurized liquid egg whites. Many of my older patients who struggle with appetite even blend them into smoothies. No flavor, no discomfort, just quiet support working in the background. Over time, when the kidneys aren't forced to fight a constant flood of protein, waste blood markers like creatinine, bune, and phosphorus often begin to stabilize instead of climbing. But here's the critical transition to what comes next. Even the cleanest protein in the world can only do so much on its own, because protecting your kidneys isn't just about what you eat, it's also about how your body handles waste before it ever reaches the kidneys. And that brings us to the next factor. Most people completely overlook the role of plant-based protein and fiber in offloading toxins before they ever enter your bloodstream. Egg whites teach us an important lesson. The kidneys don't fear protein, they fear waste. But here's where many people still get stuck. Even if you choose a clean protein, your kidneys can remain under pressure if too much waste is entering the bloodstream in the first place. And that's exactly where lentils step in, shifting the burden away from the kidneys before damage has a chance to build. I remember a woman in her early 70s who told me, "Doctor, I stopped eating meat, but I still feel heavy, bloated, and tired." Her labs showed borderline high creatinine and unstable blood sugar. What surprised her was that the issue wasn't what she had removed from her plate, but what she hadn't added back. When lentils became part of her meals just a few times a week, digestion improved first. Then her energy steadied, and only later did her kidney numbers begin to calm down. That order matters. Here's the science most people never hear. Half a cup of cooked lentils provides about 9 grams of plant-based protein, but more importantly, it delivers 7 grams of fiber. That fiber acts like a natural exit route for toxins. Instead of waste products circulating in the blood and forcing the kidneys to filter them, fiber binds to byproducts, old cholesterol and metabolic debris in the gut, and carries them out through digestion. For aging kidneys, that offloading effect is powerful. Lentils also release protein slowly. This steady absorption prevents sharp blood sugar spikes, which is critical because unstable glucose directly damages the tiny blood vessels inside the kidneys. Studies consistently show that better blood sugar control reduces inflammation and slows kidney decline. And while lentils do contain potassium, proper preparation, rinsing, cooking in extra water, and draining can reduce potassium by 100 to 200 milligrams per serving, making them far safer than most people assume. What I like most about lentils for older adults is how they feel. They don't sit heavy like meat. They don't spike energy and crash it later. They create a sense of balance. When digestion improves, the kidneys breathe easier, and that's the connection too many people miss. But understanding fiber and plant protein is still only part of the picture, because there's another hidden source of kidney stress most Americans never suspect. And it's not coming from food itself, but from something living inside your gut. Lentils reveal something crucial. If waste can leave the body through digestion, the kidneys don't have to suffer in silence. But here's where the story goes even deeper, because what determines how much waste is created in the first place isn't just food, it's the condition of your gut. And this is where Greek yogurt becomes a quiet but powerful turning point for kidney health. I once worked with a retired teacher in her late 60s who did everything right on paper. She avoided salt-limited meat, drank water, and still felt constantly bloated, foggy, and tired. Her creatinine wasn't alarming, but it never improved. When we looked beyond her diet and focused on her digestion, the missing piece became clear. Her gut was producing toxins faster than her kidneys could clear them. Within weeks of adding plain, unsweetened Greek yogurt to her routine, her bloating eased first. Then her energy returned. Only after that did her labs begin to stabilize. That sequence is not a coincidence. Here's why this matters. Greek yogurt delivers 2 kidney protective benefits at the same time. A single 6-ounce serving provides 15 to 20 grams of high-quality protein, but unlike heavy animal proteins, it digests slowly and produces less nitrogen waste. Even more important, it contains live probiotic cultures that reshape the gut environment. When harmful gut bacteria dominate, they produce uremic toxins such as indoxyl sulfate and picresol compounds that enter the bloodstream and force the kidneys to work overtime. Research consistently shows that improving gut balance reduces the circulation of these toxins, easing kidney stress from the inside out. Greek yogurt also supports blood sugar control. Its protein and natural thickness promote fullness, helping prevent spikes that damage the tiny blood vessels in the kidneys. And despite being a dairy product, plain Greek yogurt typically offers 100-150 milligrams of calcium per serving without the excessive phosphorus found in processed cheeses. The key, however, is choosing it correctly. Flavored varieties often contain 20-30 grams of added sugar, which can undo every benefit you're trying to gain. Used wisely, Greek yogurt becomes more than food. It becomes a regulator, calming digestion, reducing toxin production, and quietly supporting kidney resilience day after day. But knowing this still isn't enough because there's another factor often overlooked that can inflame the kidneys even when digestion seems fine. Greek yogurt shows us how calming the gut can reduce toxin production, but there's another invisible force that quietly accelerates kidney damage, even when digestion looks normal. Chronic inflammation. And for many older adults, inflammation isn't loud or obvious, it simmers. That's where chia seeds come in, small enough to overlook, yet powerful enough to change the internal environment your kidneys live in every day. I often think of a patient in his early 70s who told me, "Doctor, I don't feel sick, I just feel inflamed." His joints ached, his blood sugar swung, and his labs slowly drifted in the wrong direction. We didn't overhaul his diet overnight. We made one small strategic addition. Within weeks of adding chia seeds to breakfast, his digestion became smoother. His afternoon crashes faded, and the subtle swelling in his hands began to ease. That quiet improvement was the signal we were reducing inflammation at the source. Here's the science that makes chia seeds so effective. Just 1 tablespoon delivers about 5 grams of fiber and nearly 5 grams of omega-3 fatty acids, a rare combination that directly calms inflammatory pathways linked to kidney damage. Omega-3s help relax blood vessels, improve circulation to the kidneys, and reduce the low-grade inflammation that scars delicate filtration units over time. At the same time, chia's soluble fiber acts like a gentle broom in the gut, binding toxins and metabolic waste before they ever reach the bloodstream. There's another benefit most people don't expect. Chia seeds absorb up to 10 times their weight in water, forming a soft gel that slows sugar absorption. For anyone dealing with insulin resistance or prediabetes, this matters because blood sugar spikes are one of the fastest ways to damage kidney microvessels. That gel also supports hydration and regularity, reducing constipation, an often ignored contributor to toxin buildup and kidney stress. Chia seeds don't demand effort. They disappear into yogurt, oatmeal smoothies, or even a glass of water, with lemon delivering protection quietly and consistently. Over time, that consistency lowers inflammation, stabilizes energy, and gives the kidneys fewer fires to put out. But knowing how to calm inflammation still isn't enough, because there's another pressure on the kidneys that often comes from the very protein people rely on to stay strong. Chia seeds teach us how calming inflammation can protect the kidneys, but there's another pressure that quietly pushes creatinine higher in many older adults, the type of animal protein they rely on to stay strong. This is where most people get trapped. They're told to eat protein for muscle, yet no one explains that some proteins demand far more from the kidneys than others. And that's exactly why chicken breast matters. I think of a man in his late 60s who came to me frustrated. He had cut back on red meat, but not completely, believing a little steak or processed deli meat was harmless. His strength was declining, his legs felt heavy, and his labs kept inching upward. We didn't remove protein, we refined it. When chicken breast became his primary animal protein, something shifted. His digestion felt lighter first, then his swelling eased. Only later did his creatinine stop rising. That order is not accidental. Here's the science. A 3-ounce serving of cooked chicken breast provides about 26 grams of high-quality protein with very low fat and significantly fewer waste byproducts than red or processed meats. Unlike steak sausages or burgers, chicken breast contains less saturated fat and produces a cleaner nitrogen profile during digestion. That matters because nitrogen waste is one of the key drivers behind rising creatinine and bun. When kidneys are already strained, every reduction in waste counts. Chicken breast also supports cardiovascular health, which is inseparable from kidney health. Lower saturated fat, often under 3 grams per serving, means less arterial inflammation, better blood flow, and more efficient filtration inside the kidneys. Many older adults notice that when they replace red meat with chicken breast, blood pressure stabilizes and post-meal fatigue improves. That's the kidneys finally getting some breathing room. Preparation is everything. Grilled, baked, steamed, or air-fried chicken breast, seasoned with herbs, lemon, or garlic, keeps sodium low and benefits intact. Heavy sauces, processed marinades, and excess salt undo the advantage by forcing the kidneys to retain fluid and raise blood pressure. When kept simple, chicken breast becomes a dependable foundation, preserving muscle, supporting daily movement, and reducing metabolic stress all at once. But understanding clean animal protein still isn't the full story because there's another food many people fear unnecessarily, one that can actually protect kidney cells when used the right way. Chicken breast helps us see that not all animal proteins burden the kidneys the same way. But now we need to address a food many people avoid out of fear nuts, especially almonds. I can't tell you how often patients say, "Doctor, I stopped eating nuts because I heard they're bad for my kidneys." And that single decision quietly robs them of one of the most protective nutrients aging kidneys desperately need. I remember a woman in her early 70s whose creatinine was slowly climbing despite a careful diet. She avoided salt-limited protein and still felt weak and inflamed. When I asked about nuts, she shook her head. Almonds had been banned in her mind. We reintroduced them carefully, just a small portion, a few times a week. Within a month, her digestion improved, her afternoon fatigue softened, and her labs stopped trending upward. The problem was never almonds. It was the misunderstanding of portion and purpose. Here's the science that changes the narrative. 1 ounce of almonds, about 23 nuts, provides roughly 6 grams of plant-based protein, 3 or 4 grams of fiber, and about 7 milligrams of vitamin E, a powerful antioxidant. Vitamin E plays a critical role in protecting kidney cells from oxidative stress, which accelerates nephron damage as we age. For kidneys under chronic strain, oxidative stress is like rust on machinery, slow, silent, and destructive. Almonds help slow that process. Almonds also supply 75 to 80 milligrams of magnesium per ounce of mineral. Many older adults are deficient in due to medications, stress, and aging. Low magnesium is linked to higher blood pressure, insulin resistance, and inflammation, all of which worsen kidney function. Restoring magnesium gently through food improves blood vessel relaxation, circulation, and metabolic balance, giving the kidneys a more stable internal environment. Yes, almonds contain potassium around 180 milligrams per ounce, but in controlled portions, this level is generally safe for many people with early or moderate kidney stress. And because almonds are nutrient-dense, you don't need many to get the benefit. A few as a snack sprinkled into yogurt or oatmeal or added to salads provide steady energy without overwhelming digestion or filtration. Almonds aren't a threat to the kidneys. When used wisely, they're a shield. They protect cells, calm inflammation, and reduce toxin load through improved digestion. But even antioxidant protection isn't the final piece, because there's another protein that goes a step further, actively calming inflammation while improving blood flow to the kidneys themselves. Almonds show us how antioxidants can shield kidney cells from slow, silent damage, but there's a protein that goes one step further by actively calming inflammation and improving blood flow to the kidneys themselves. And that protein is salmon. This is where kidney protection stops being passive and becomes proactive. I think of a retired engineer in his early 70s who came in with persistent ankle swelling and rising blood pressure. He wasn't overeating, and his labs weren't alarming yet, but the trend was wrong. We didn't overhaul his meals. We made one strategic swap: salmon twice a week instead of heavier meats. Within weeks, the swelling softened. His blood pressure readings steadied, and over time, his kidney markers stopped drifting upward. What changed wasn't just protein, it was inflammation control. Here's why salmon is different. A 3-ounce serving of cooked salmon provides about 22 grams of high-quality protein, but the real power comes from its omega-3 fatty acids, EPA and DHA. These compounds reduce inflammatory signaling, relax blood vessels, and improve circulation to the kidney's delicate filtering units. Better blood flow means better filtration with less internal pressure. For aging kidneys, that's a game changer. Salmon also delivers nutrients many older adults lack. It's a natural source of vitamin D, which supports calcium balance and immune health, and selenium, typically around 35 micrograms per serving, a potent antioxidant that protects kidney tissue from oxidative stress. Together, these nutrients create an environment where kidneys aren't constantly fighting inflammation, they're finally allowed to recover. Preparation matters. Grilled, baked, steamed, or lightly pan-seared salmon with herbs and lemon preserves benefits without loading sodium or unhealthy fats. Heavy sauces and salty marinades erase the advantage. 2 servings per week, each 3-4 ounces, is enough to gain protection without increasing exposure to contaminants. Wild-caught varieties are generally preferred for cleaner nutrient profiles. When salmon replaces inflammatory proteins, many people notice steadier energy, less swelling, and a feeling of lightness after meals. That's not coincidence that's circulation improving and inflammation backing down. But even the most anti-inflammatory protein can fall short if protein itself becomes too concentrated too fast. And that brings us to a form of protein many people misunderstand, yet rely on every day. Salmon teaches us how powerful anti-inflammatory nutrition can be, but there's another problem quietly sabotaging kidney health for many older adults: protein that arrives too fast, too concentrated, and with too much hidden waste. This is where many people unknowingly hurt their kidneys with shakes and powders meant to help. And it's exactly why pea protein powder, when chosen correctly, deserves a very different reputation. I remember a patient in his late 60s who relied on a popular protein shake every morning. He believed it was supporting his muscles, yet his creatinine kept inching higher, and his digestion felt constantly off. When we reviewed the label, the issue became obvious. Artificial sweeteners added phosphates in a protein source that spiked nitrogen waste. We switched to a clean, single-ingredient pea protein. Within weeks, his bloating eased, his energy steadied, and his labs stopped trending in the wrong direction. The protein didn't disappear, the toxins did. Here's the science that explains the difference. A standard scoop of pea protein provides around 20 grams of plant-based protein with low purine content, meaning it produces far less uric acid and nitrogen waste during digestion. That's critical for kidneys already under strain. Pea protein is also rich in branched-chain amino acids which support muscle repair and strength without overwhelming filtration. And because it digests more gradually than many animal-based powders, it avoids the sharp spikes that push creatinine higher. There's another benefit most people miss. Pea protein has a mild alkalizing effect, helping counter metabolic acid load, a known stressor for aging kidneys. It also naturally contains arginine, an amino acid that supports blood vessel relaxation and circulation, improving how efficiently the kidneys filter blood. When circulation improves filtration, pressure drops and the kidneys work smarter, not harder. The key is quality and restraint. 1 scoop per day is enough. Mix it with water, unsweetened almond milk, or blend it with berries and fiber-rich foods to slow absorption even further. Avoid flavored powders packed with sweeteners and gums. They cancel out the benefit. Pea protein isn't a shortcut. It's a precision tool. Used correctly, it supports muscle, stabilizes energy, and keeps waste low, exactly what stressed kidneys need. But even the cleanest protein powders can't replace one crucial factor for kidney stability, because there's a slow-digesting protein that works when your body needs it most often while you're resting. Pea protein shows us how concentration and timing matter. But there's another mistake many older adults make without realizing it. They feed their muscles during the day, then starve them at night. When that happens, the body quietly turns to its own muscle tissue for fuel, while you sleep, creating unnecessary waste the kidneys must clear by morning. This is where cottage cheese becomes an unexpectedly powerful ally. I think of a woman in her early 70s who told me she woke up weaker every morning, even though she ate enough during the day. Her creatinine was borderline high and her nights were restless. We didn't add more food, we added the right food at the right time. A small serving of low-sodium cottage cheese in the evening changed everything. Within weeks, her morning fatigue softened, her muscle strength stabilized, and her lab numbers stopped drifting upward. What changed wasn't volume, it was timing and protein quality. Here's why cottage cheese works so differently. Half a cup provides about 14 grams of protein, mostly in the form of casein, a slow-digesting protein that releases amino acids gradually over several hours. This steady release prevents overnight muscle breakdown, which is a hidden contributor to rising creatinine in older adults. When muscles are protected, the kidneys face less internal waste to filter the next day. Cottage cheese also brings supportive nutrients into the picture. It contains roughly 140 milligrams of calcium per half cup, helping maintain bone strength and acid balance, both critical for kidney health. Many varieties also provide vitamin B12, supporting red blood cell production and oxygen delivery to kidney tissue. And when you choose versions with live cultures, you gain probiotic benefits that further reduce toxin production in the gut, easing the kidney's workload from yet another angle. The key again is selection. Low-sodium cottage cheese, typically under 150 milligrams of sodium per serving, keeps fluid retention and blood pressure in check. Flavored or heavily processed versions often hide sugars and additives that undo the benefit. Paired with berries or a small amount of fiber, cottage cheese becomes a quiet overnight stabilizer working while you rest. Cottage cheese doesn't just feed the body, it protects the kidneys during the most vulnerable hours of the day. But even nighttime protection isn't the final piece, because there's one plant-based food that completes the protein puzzle, providing everything muscles need with minimal kidney strain. Cottage cheese shows us how timing and slow digestion protect the kidneys overnight. But to truly complete the picture, there's one plant-based food that solves a problem. Most people don't realize they still have incomplete protein. This is where many well-meaning diets quietly fall short, and where quinoa steps in as the missing link. I often meet older adults who say, "Doctor, I've switched to more plant foods, but I still feel weak." Their labs may look stable, yet their strength fades and fatigue creeps in. One patient in his early 70s told me he felt like his body just wasn't rebuilding anymore. When quinoa replaced refined grains at a few meals each week, the change was subtle at first. Then his stamina improved, his balance steadied, and most importantly, his kidney numbers stopped fluctuating. The issue was never plant foods, it was protein completeness. Here's the science that makes quinoa unique. 1 cup of cooked quinoa provides about 8 grams of protein, but unlike most grains, it contains all 9 essential amino acids. That makes it a complete plant-based protein, something rare and extremely valuable for aging bodies. When amino acids are missing, the body compensates by breaking down muscle to fill the gaps, increasing internal waste and pushing creatinine higher. Quinoa prevents that silent loss. Quinoa also produces minimal nitrogen waste during digestion, making it far gentler on the kidneys than heavier animal proteins. It delivers around 5 grams of fiber per cup, supporting blood sugar stability and digestive clearance, 2 indirect but powerful protectors of kidney function. Its mineral profile matters too. With roughly 120 milligrams of magnesium per serving, quinoa supports blood vessel relaxation, circulation, and filtration pressure inside the kidneys, while antioxidants help shield kidney cells from oxidative stress. Preparation enhances its benefits. Rinsing quinoa removes natural saponins that can irritate digestion, and cooking it gently keeps absorption steady. Paired with vegetables or small portions of clean protein, quinoa becomes a stabilizing foundation rather than a spike. Quinoa doesn't overwhelm the kidneys, it supports the entire system quietly and completely. It fuels muscles, steadies energy, and reduces the hidden waste that accelerates decline. But even after choosing the right proteins, there's one final factor often ignored, rarely discussed, that can determine whether your kidneys recover or continue toward dialysis, and it has nothing to do with food at all. If you've stayed with me until now, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not too late, and your kidneys are not powerless. Small, consistent changes, choosing the right proteins, reducing hidden waste, calming inflammation, and supporting circulation can truly ease the burden on your kidneys over time. You don't need extreme diets or fear-driven restrictions. What you need is understanding, patience, and a plan that works with your body, not against it. I also want you to know that you're not alone in this. If any part of today's video made you pause and think this sounds like me, that matters. It means your body is giving you signals, and listening to those signals is an act of self-care, not weakness. Take one step at a time. Even one better choice a day can begin to change the direction of your kidney health. If you found this information helpful, do yourself a favor and save this video so you can come back to it when you need a reminder or want to review a specific section. And make sure to subscribe to the channel, because I share new science-based medical insights regularly, focused on protecting your kidneys, improving energy, and helping you age with strength and confidence. This channel is here to support you with clear, practical guidance you can actually use. Most importantly, remember, this kidney health is not about perfection, it's about progress. Your kidneys respond to care, consistency, and kindness toward your body. Start where you are, keep learning, and keep going. A healthier, more stable future is still very much within reach.